I want to ask you a question because I have one particular show that you did in my head. I don't want to say if I'm accurate, but what was the most painful loss? What was the one loss that stung the most?
The 2015 Olympia. Because
okay.
I was so close to being number one in the world. And to be honest, most people in the auditorium thought so too.
And was it Flex?
Yeah. And, you know, that's the only one that really sucked because, I mean, I have many that sucked.
Right.
But it's that one that I arguably could have been number one in the world, sure. which is life-changing, you know, just the business that could come from that, the contracts, you know, everything, the appearance fees, everything that comes from being number one as opposed to number two.
Yeah.
There's number one and then there's the rest. That's it.
Yeah. So from my point of view, number two is in the world is pretty goddamn good, but I totally understand your point of view.
Yeah.
The show that I was thinking of, and I actually messaged you on Instagram, but you probably get a million messages on Instagram, was the Arnold Classic when you took second to Hardy.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. That was the one I was thinking of.
That one stung for a different reason. Again, I love Hide and I love Flex.
Yeah, right, sorry.
You never want to disrespect the winner by being upset, but I was upset because I watched from the stage Arnold send one of his cronies up to the judges table to give his opinion. Like, you're the promoter, not a judge.
Yeah.
And he had just come out with this, like, you know, this is bodybuilding, not body destroying, and you have bubble guts and all this stuff. And I was the biggest, hardest guy on stage, you know? And
certainly, especially from the back. From the back, it was like that.
Yeah. And, you know, I just felt like this guy that I worshipped as a kid, and I even met him later on in life, and he was great to me. And then he just started, like, basically talking shit and making sure that I wasn't going to win. And it was a tough pill to swallow. It was as if they changed the rules mid-game. Mm-hmm. You know, I came there to win. Right. I did a show every year they had it. They had 5 212s, and I did every single one. Mm. And I didn't have to. I wanted to do it. It was a great show, and wanted to represent not just myself, but the Arnold Classic and the 212 division. And to have it, you know, I just felt like more than any other show, that was a very political move. If you look, there was 5 winners from 5 different countries. When would that happen? When does that ever happen? Right. Each year, a different winner, a different country. It just seemed a little
peculiar.
Yes. and you know, I brought the heat that year. I wasn't better than the year before, but I was damn close. And you know, I felt as though I had done enough to win, and someone didn't want me to. And that hurt because that's just not how it should be.
Right.
And but, you know, still, that wasn't the number 1 show in the world. It was the number 2 show.
Right.
And, you know, nothing hurt more than losing the Olympia. You know, when it's in your grasp, it's there. And you know, my family and friends were all freaking out after prejudging, like, you just fucking won the Olympia. You know, I'm like, no, I knew better. I'm like, we'll see. You know,
well, now you know how Kai felt, and Flex Wheeler felt, and Sean Ray felt, and you know, the list goes down of number of bodybuilders that are in the Hall of Fame. You know, that has to be Branch was another one. Branch came in second. That has to be, you know, like you said, a tough pill to swallow.
Long story short.
Okay.
I started training around 2006, 2007. I dealt with eating disorder all through high school. I really thought that skinny was the thing, because tabloids, TV, magazines,
Yes.
everything, that's what you saw.
Yes,
And so,
especially back then. Yes.
You know, what I couldn't fit into a prom dress. I was poor. I one of 6 kids, so the girls were like, if you do this, you can lose the weight. Well, it became habit, and I could control my weight and stuff, but then it got out of control.
Right.
Spun out of control. And so,
if you don't mind me asking, what kind of eating disorder was it?
So I was bulimic. I love food, but then the guilt part of it.
Yes.
Like I would eat and I would eat and I would eat. I mean, I would eat everything under the sun, and then the guilt would sit in. I'd go purge, and it got to where it was automatic. I didn't have to purge anymore. My body was like, oh, we just had something, so we've got to go. So it was bad. Like I got to where I couldn't get up and take care of my son, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I turned to a friend who owned a gym. His wife was a dietitian, and I learned how to be able to deal with, okay, I'm eating this because this is healthy for me, and it's not going to make me, blow up and be fat, things like that. And, he talked me into doing my first competition, because I was tiny, but I've always had like a small athletic build, because I've always been very physical. I started out in the fire department when I was like 14, 15 as a volunteer.
Really?
I was always doing things that was very physical. We were outside all the time. There were 6 kids. You didn't stay inside. You were moving wood piles and everything, so long story short. So that's where that started. And, I remember being in Kroger. I think it was Kroger. Maybe it wasn't Kroger at the time, but it was a grocery store. And I remember seeing a magazine with like Rachel McLeish on it. And I was like, I remember seeing a poster somewhere, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. And it was Linda Murray.
Oh yeah. Well, she is beautiful.
And then, absolutely. And then I saw Corey Everson, and I was like, this is just, wow.
So you and I must be the same age then, because those were the girls when I was in like high school and so on and so forth. Those are the girls that were on the covers and so on and so forth.
So you're asking me to tell you my age then?
No. You could just say, no, I will never ask you that. But I will ask you what years were this? I'm assuming this was the 90s.
Yeah. So I graduated in 92.
Okay. Yeah.
So I graduated high school in 92.
I graduated in 94. So yeah, about the same age.
I just remember seeing these girls, and I'm thinking to myself, that's absolutely beautiful. And I remember my dad having rebar that was super thick, coffee cans filled with concrete. Oh, yes. And he would do curls and stuff with that. And I'm like, And then my brother would go to like the weight room and stuff when we were in high school, and I would go with him. So it was just, and then once I got into starting with my first competition, I was addicted. So it was one addiction to another. And it was such therapy for me, therapy, because I was in control. I didn't let something else, kind of take control over me. I was in control.
So you literally went from battling these eating disorder, these demons, to how long were you battling that disorder for? When I was
about 15 years old, and the last purge that I had was probably, because it's an ongoing thing. It's never going to go away, because you have urges and stuff. But the last time I purged was probably 2012.
Okay. So you're battling this, and you were able to, this is what I mean by women bodybuilders are mentally stronger than the majority of people. You were able to literally make the change where food is the number one ingredient in the sport that you chose.
Funny thing that that you just said that, because that was one of the main keys to me putting on the size that I did over this last year.
Of course.
It gave me the package for this year, because it's always in your head, if I eat this, oh my gosh, I need to do more cardio. And I had to learn how to balance that. And like my husband is my coach. I I would hear him say, you know, you need to eat more, you need to eat more. But it wasn't something consistent because I was always scared that I would put on that bad weight.
Mm-hmm.
So this last year, sucked it up. Everything was outside the normal box for me. Mm-hmm. And 30 pounds later.
Wow. Yeah, I did see. That's amazing. That's amazing. That truly is. Like putting 30 pounds of muscle on, period, is amazing. But going through the trials and tribulations you went through and then that's even more astounding. And this is why I have the opinions about women bodybuilders that I do, is I truly believe that they are mentally stronger than the majority of people out there.
We are.
Yeah. Regan Grimes, who is now with Milos, right?
Yep. I was training Regan last year leading into Olympia. Like we trained a couple times a week, and then he would come in and out because he also was splitting kind of time between here and London, Ontario, which is pretty decent drive. And he had his own, like even with Regan, it's great that he's found Milos and like that he's got this rapport with Milos and this like consistency and someone to be on him and like kind of walk him through, because Milos was a great pro. Milos is a great guy, right? So it's like, it's great that he has that kind of, he's found that kind of like piece where he fits. Do you know what I mean? So there's the sky's the limit for him, but like honest to God, like he's another guy who's worked with countless trainers and countless, like he's been to Kuwait, he's worked with those people. So it's like,
I remember that.
He's got a lot of inventory of knowledge that he can compile into like, now it's like, okay, well, Milos is now going to harness that and like do what Milos does, right, for him. So it's like, I mean, like when people say, oh, so-and-so is with so-and-so now, like if someone's like, oh, so-and-so is with Mike now, it's like, but you're also a product of all these people that came before me. And you're also a product of yourself from the stuff you've taught yourself. It's not like you just wipe the slate clean and, oh, Mike is responsible for this guy, or Milos is responsible, or Patrick Tour is responsible. Like, no, like there's a journey that led up to the point when you're working with this person now, and all that stuff before still counts. You can't just discount it.
Right.
And say that this guy made me what I am. It's like, no, man, there's hours of lifting. There's thousands of sets that happened before this moment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And if you didn't do all that, you wouldn't be where you are now to have someone take you and elevate you a bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that's why I don't think people are making a big stink about Regan going with Milos and this and that, and there was like all this controversy. It's like, no, like, because Regan had a lot of people influence him prior to Milos, and all that stuff's still with him as well, right? Whether it's coaches that help.
Yeah, it's not like he was a shithead. He's still, top 10 bodybuilder in the world.
That's the thing is like, if Regan went with like, let's say person X instead of Milos, like he's still gonna be Regan.
Right.
That genetic and that ability and that gift and talent is in that person. Yeah. That didn't get brought out by one person.
Right.
Like, oh, Chris Aceto brought the best out of him. Like, well, no, Chris Aceto worked with him at this point, and then he worked with another person, and he worked with Dorian. Dorian brought the best that he brought out of him so far. And now it's just like another step to, let's see what he does with Milos. And I think they'll do fantastic. I think they're going to kill it.
Well, you can see already. I mean, the last few shows that he did, it's night and day. I feel like, Milos, I don't know what, it's like he is one of those modern trainers where you could see a tremendous difference on stage. And I think it's all conditioning.
Well, that is the difference that people don't understand. Like the degrees of conditioning curate an illusion of a physique that's maybe bigger or like fuller, rounder, because the person committed themselves. And Milos, I feel like, I don't know Milos personally, but I've interviewed him and I've been a big fan of him for a long time. It's like, I think he pulls the best out of people. And I think he has a knack of like people see, when people work with someone that they see has done it before and at a high level, because Milos was great, man. Like I was a huge fan of Milos growing up. Like not his work he's done with people. I'm talking about him.
His bodybuilding.
Like his physique and his posing and his like attention to detail and how meticulous he was, and he knew the sport in and out. Like that all gets transferred to now the person that he's working with, and he instills that in them. So of course they're going to get better. Why wouldn't they? They'd have to be a moron not to get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you literally have to be a moron.
And then the people that leave him, you could actually see when Max Charles left him. I don't know what the falling out was, but you saw a tremendous difference, you know, the other way. When Max Charles left him, all of a sudden he's dropping.
I think it's just a matter of like, it's like Max Charles leaving him, Regan joining him. It's just like maybe like your journey with each person, like any relationship in life, whether it could be a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Some people, their journey starts with that person and ends with that person. Whereas a lot of us, like, we meet another person, and it all influences you to becoming the person you are, right? So these are all necessary pieces that have to happen. And like, I hope for Regan's sake and Milos' sake, or anybody's sake who joins a new coach, that like it's always the best for them, because it should be. And like the next person should be the best person, because you're smart enough to recognize, like, I need this right now.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And any great athlete kind of has to recognize when you've kind of drawn all the info out of this person, and you kind of need to go elsewhere. For some reason in bodybuilding, it's become this big controversy. Like, everybody, the so-and-so's with so-and-so now. It's like, yeah, but like, if you went up to that person and you spoke to them one-on-one and didn't have this like facade of bodybuilding around, they probably tell you, yeah, like, I really learned a lot from this guy, and I really took a lot from this guy, and now I just happen to be going in this direction. But it's not like, fuck that guy and fuck that guy. This guy didn't know what the fuck it's like. No, it's not. That's how they portray it, right? Like, it's nothing to do with that. Like, I tell my guys all the time, like, if they are like, they don't train with me every day. I don't train my guys every day. And at one point I did. And then things kind of happen where guys are doing shows, or I'm away because I'm working on my other job. I'm not around. So it's like, I just hope that what I instill in them are like little things, like maybe little cues I give them, or little like tips I give them with like their head placement or hand placement, or where they're starting from. And it's like nice for me to see, because I'll be working out in the gym by myself, and I'll see them training, and I'll notice like their movement is exactly what I would want them to do. So I'm like, oh, maybe it clicked for them, right? So it's like, that's a win for me. Anyway, so my brother Dominic, and this is one of the, like, more of a selfish question. My brother Dominic is a big hunter, but he hunts for some reason. He loves to hunt bird, ducks, pheasant, turkey. I don't know what it is about birds. He says it's challenging to him. I have no idea. You know, I'm not much into it, but I should go. I was watching Fuad's podcast, and Guy was describing, I believe it was a specific type of boar hunt you guys do, and it's without rifles. Am I accurate?
Right.
Can you describe that? I actually really want to send this to my brother and have him watch it, because he would love it.
So, man, I've been doing this since I was a kid. So, you know, we have a ton of these wild boars in Texas. I don't know, several million of them, and they're not native animals. They were introduced here way back when, and so they've just proliferated all over the state, all over the South, actually. I think most, and I think they're good. I don't know how many states have them now, but they're a nuisance. So they destroy crops, and farmers, you know, it's cost farmers a lot of money. So anyway, I've been hunting since I was a kid. So we hunt them with dogs. So you have these bay dogs, you know, like hound dogs, blackmouth curs, catahoulas, things like that, and they track these things down. And it's a very physical hunt, because you gotta walk and keep the dogs so you can at least hear them. You know, back in those days, now we have GPS, so it makes it a little bit easier to track the dogs. But they get on them, and they get one bait up, and then you have a bulldog or a pit bull with you. You put a Kevlar vest on him and a cut collar, because those boars have those big long tusks. You know, they're deadly. And they get one bait up, and you get in there and you turn the bulldog loose. He catches it, and then you go in, you grab it, and you stick it with a knife.
And those pit bulls have no fear. They just go grind. And they?
People that like, you have a 100-pound pit bull, right?
Yeah.
So you have no idea. I guarantee you what that dog is capable of.
It's a house dog.
Pit bulls, and they're sweet and loving and all this stuff. And I'm just looking at them. I'm like, you have no idea what you have. So when they're natural element. You know, they were bred to hunt. You know, and be protection dogs and to hunt, and they love it. I mean, as soon as I would pull out their vest, they just start going nuts, man. And they don't know quit. So you kind of form a special bond with the bulldogs and the pit bulls, because they just don't know quit. They won't quit. So turn them loose. There's two outcomes: the hog dies or they die.
Wow.
And you know, that's why we put all the protective gear on them, protect them so they don't get hurt. and they just won't quit. I mean, that's what makes them so awesome, because they just stuff that are in, and I've never seen one give up. They just don't give up.
So the dog grabs the boar, I'm assuming probably by the neck most of the time, right?
Now we try to train them to do it by the ear. They get them by the ear, and then by the ear, and they keep their body up against the boar's body. They're safe. He can't get them.
Okay.
So you got an 80-pound pit bull hanging off your ear. You ain't running away.
Oh, you ain't going nowhere. So the boar's got him by the ear, and you obviously have to find, or you already know where the boar is, and then where exactly do you stab him? What kind of knife do you use?
I just use usually about a 10, 12-inch knife, and you just stab them behind the front leg, down low, where the heart, lungs are, and it's over probably quicker than a gunshot, actually.
Really?
But, it's not a very quick, very you ever hear this term, bleeding like a stuck pig? Well, when you hit the money, and it's over just like that.
Okay. So it is more humane than you think.
Yeah, it is. And people got issues with hunting or whatever. That's fine, but when you go to get a nice steak or a burger or chicken or fish,
that's right.
I promise you, the way we hunt is much more humane than how they get killed in a slaughterhouse.
Oh, absolutely. Now,
and I have no problem with hunting as long as you eat the meat. I mean,
yeah, as long as you put it to use. Yes, I agree. Yeah. And I don't think you're from Texas because you somehow hooked up with Branch. How did that happen?
Well, when we turned pro at the same time, mind you. I won the light heavyweight class. He won the heavyweight class. Eric Arturo, God bless the dead, he won the middleweight class. And Art Atwood, God bless the dead, he won super heavy. And we're all from Texas. We all live in Texas.
Okay.
So it was a pretty cool deal in 2001 for Texas.
Did you always train with Branch, or that was something that
No, that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, good.
We met once before the Nationals. I met him once before. It was at a show that I was doing, the Heart of Texas here in Texas. And Branch, his coach at the time, Mark Hanlon, and a few other entourage guys were in the back, and they saw me, and I kind of heard them whispering a little bit, and I kind of looked over, and they were like, man, that guy looks pretty good. And so they all came over, introduced themselves and stuff like that. And I just had got out of the military, and that was my very first show here in Texas. And, I actually tried to call Mark Hanlon probably the whole week after, because they wanted to hook up, and me started working out with them and stuff like that. Then the whole group, but they never returned my phone calls. Mm-hmm. So anyway, after the Nationals, I was working out here at Stroud's. I'm talking about here. I'm outside the gym. Obviously, I'm in my truck. I got a client to train. This is where I usually train at Stroud's Fitness here in Hurst, Texas. And he worked out at South Lake Training Center with Mark Hanlon and Metroflex, the original Metroflex gym in Arlington, Texas. So he came over here to work out, and I was training my client, and I looked over and I was like, holy crap, there's that guy who won the heavyweight class at the Nationals, And he walked over to me. He's like, hey, man, what's up? He was like, what are you training tomorrow? And I said, back. He was like, you want to hook up? And I was like, hell yeah. And we trained every day since then.
That's it. That's how it happened. Now, yep. Those videos that are on YouTube and whatnot, those are probably the most motivational bodybuilding videos anybody has ever seen. The energy is amazing. The workouts are intense. Even till this day, I meet young guys in the gym that are like, oh, I watch Branch and Johnny Jackson before I come to the gym. Did you ever meet somebody that could match your intensity, you and Branch?
Well, no, that's why I'm working out with him. He's the only one. Other than Branch, before him, my oldest brother, which I lost, and that's kind of why I'm a pro bodybuilder now, because it was his dream. One of his dreams before we lost him, and I was in the military right at 10 years, and I decided to get out instead of re-up and continue my career, because I figured I would end my career in the military. But when when my brother happened, I left the military and decided to
make his dream mine, and it's something we were doing together. And it took me 4 years. I turned pro and been doing ever since.
That's fantastic.